Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Welcome to Updates at Noon. I'm Mohammed Priya. Making the headlines today, several leading companies in China choose Malaysia as regional hub. Government to find win-win solution in resolving contract doctor issue. Several leading companies from China have decided to make Malaysia their regional hub. According to Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, this is the first time several of the Chinese companies chose Malaysia as their regional hub.
Saya terasa seolah-olah ada satu lonjakan baru tentang imej Malaysia dan harapan Malaysia, kerana ada beberapa syarikat terkemuka, mungkin dalam beberapa hari saya akan umumkan, yang memutuskan di depan saya boleh bincang untuk menjadikan Malaysia ini regional hub dia selain daripada negara China. Selalunya di negara-negara lain, negara jiran. Tapi ini kali pertama beberapa memilih untuk menjadikan ini sebagai regional hub.
The Premier said he also has communicated to the leading Chinese companies that they prioritize the hiring of qualified Malaysian workers when they come here to operate. He also expressed deep appreciation to the continuous efforts from the team of ministers and government officials, which has been the catalyst for the extraordinary success in the recent official visit to China. Datuk Seri Anwar also informed that the country is ready to further negotiate regarding the issue of conflicting claims over the South China Sea. This is due to the presence of the largest offshore Petronas oil rig which is conducting mining projects.
Malah dalam beberapa isu lain yang agak sensitif seperti Laut Cina Selatan dengan Presiden Xi Jinping, saya bangkitkan kerana Petronas ada pelantar terbesar yang pernah disediakan di negara kita dan meneruskan program cari gali di situ. Dan ini kemudian bercanggah kerana di kawasan itu ada tuntutan yang sama dari negara China. Saya beritahu bahawa sebagai negara kecil yang memerlukan sumber, maka minyak dan gas kita terpaksa teruskan. Tapi kalau syaratnya ada rundingan untuk pastikan, maka kita sedia berunding.
He said this in the Prime Minister's Department monthly assembly in Putrajaya. The government will ensure the implementation of a win-win solution so that no party will be at a loss or feel left out in resolving the contract doctor issue. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said to resolve the issue, he would present the details of the situation to Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim in the near future. Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid, who is also Rural and Regional Development Minister, said the special committee involving the Ministry of Health, Public Service Department and Public Service Commission had been discussing several proposals, including granting permanent employment to contract doctors.
Bagi kita menyantuni doktor-doktor kontrak ini, yang pada hemat saya harus dibela. Dan pembelaan ini harus mengikut tata cara dan skema perkhidmatan pihak kerajaan. Dan tentunya ada beberapa cadangan yang telah diperbincangkan untuk meletakkan mereka sebagai doktor-doktor yang bertaraf perkhidmatan tetap.
He said this while attending a Ramadan event in the federal capital. Earlier, a group of contract doctors who associate themselves with an online account named Mogok Doktor Malaysia was reported to be going on strike nationwide to protest what they claim to be unfair contract system and low wages. Meanwhile, regarding the new Malacca State Executive Council or EXCO lineup, Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid said it will involve political parties under the unity government. The Deputy Prime Minister said the State Exco list was presented to him by Malacca Chief Minister Datuk Sri Abdul Rauf Yusof. He said although Barisan Nasional won 21 of the 28 state seats contested in the last state election, the party intends to share the State Exco lineup with other political parties in the government due to the spirit of the unity government.
Pada hemat saya ini merupakan satu optik yang baru. Bukan saja kita mendukung kerajaan perpaduan di peringkat pusat tetapi juga kerajaan perpaduan di peringkat nasional.
The swearing-in ceremony of the Malacca Exco members is expected to take place this Wednesday at the Chief Minister's office in Complex Sri Negeri Aikro. Chief Minister Datuk Sri Abdul Rauf Yusof said the proposed names had been discussed and accepted by Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, who is also UMNO President, yesterday. He said the composition of the Exco lineup was observed and assessed in various aspects and demonstrated the unity government spirit, which would in turn bring balance to the state administration.
Barisan Exco yang baru setelah saya berunding dengan Yang Berhormat Presiden semalam telah pun diterima dan saya akan berjumpa dengan yang Tuan Yang Terutama Tun apabila Tuan Yang Terutama Tun balik pada luar negara. Seperti mana saya janjikan bahawa saya akan melengkapkan senarai nama cadangan Exco dalam masa 48 jam telah saya sempurnakan. Cuma persyaratan akad sumpah insya-Allah akan diadakan pada hari Rabu.
He said this upon arriving at the Chief Minister's office to begin his official duties as the 13th Chief Minister of Malacca. No traders were found selling whole chicken above the set ceiling price of RM9.40 per kilogram throughout the first 10 days of Ramadan. Minister of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living, KPDN, Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub said to ensure that traders continue to comply with the set price, his ministry, together with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security and industry players, will be alert and be monitoring prices at all times.
Apa yang saya perhatikan bukan sekadar setakat ini peniaga-peniaga patuh kepada harga shilling RM9.40, tetapi masih ada lagi pasar raya besar yang boleh menjual serendah RM7.99. Ini sangat membantu sebenarnya.
Datuk Sri Salahuddin said this during a price survey for daily necessities at a supermarket in Batu Pahat. He said the ministry would conduct such checks at least 3 times a week to ensure continued adherence to the determined ceiling prices. The minister also assured that there is ample and sufficient supply of chicken and egg to last throughout the month of Ramadan, as well as the Aidil Fitri festive season. Malaysia condemns the heinous act of Quran burning in Denmark.
The number of malicious and false statements spread by SMS or social media platforms have become too widespread. The public is advised to be careful and not fall for such ploys and sharing or forwarding such messages. Remember that spreading fake news is an offence under Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998. This carries a penalty of a fine not exceeding RM50,000 or up to 1 year imprisonment or both upon conviction.
Welcome back. The Department of Minerals and Geoscience has identified a total of 221 critical slopes which need attention, especially when the monsoon season starts. Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Minister Nik Ahmad said geologists are recommended to ensure that residents at risk of geological disasters are given enough knowledge in facing these possible threats. In conjunction with World Geologists Day 2023, Nick Nazmi said the heartbreaking incident which claimed 31 lives in Batangkali in December last year could have been avoided if all parties took the development of an area seriously. This includes taking precautionary measures such as ensuring that the site involved was stable and safe and not at risk of geological disasters such as landslides. The Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Ministry is also actively developing the National Geopark Development and Implementation Plan so that geopark development in Malaysia is carried out in a controlled and sustainable manner. Malaysia has condemned in the strongest terms the despicable and repeated acts of burning the Holy Quran in Denmark on 24th and 31st March. Wisma Putra, in a statement today, said this was not the first time such a heinous act had been carried out in Denmark this year. Despite repeated rejection and strong condemnation by Muslims worldwide, the ministry said Denmark government's refusal to stop the vile act is utterly unacceptable. The statement said the Islamophobic act carried out during the holy month of Ramadan, when Muslims are required to exercise patience and self-restraint, is nothing more than the spreading of hatred and incitement to violence. Malaysia called upon Denmark government to take serious action against the perpetrators and not to term this act as a freedom of expression. Malaysia also urged the international community to exert the utmost efforts in ensuring that religious scriptures are fully respected and protected. The Road Transport Department, JPJ, summoned a bus driver who was using a handphone while driving from Pulau Pinang to Ipoh recently. Its Director General, Datuk Zailani Hashim, in a statement said investigations revealed that the bus is owned by a company operating in Butterworth, Pulau Pinang. JPJ's further investigations revealed that the bus driver had 13 previous traffic offences, which means that additional measures can be taken on him, including suspension of his driving licence. JPJ emphasised that using a mobile phone while driving is a serious and dangerous offence that can pose risks on road accidents, not only to bus passengers, but also to other road users. Previously, a 20-second video went viral on social media showing a bus driver using his handphone while he was driving, with both his elbows used to hold the steering wheel while he was attending the phone. Commenting on the matter, Datuk Zailani also called on the public to become the eyes and ears of JPJ by channeling any complaints regarding road offences through the My JPJ application. Coming up on the foreign front, a prominent Russian military blogger killed in cafe explosion. But first, former U.S. President Donald Trump asked his supporters to contribute money to his 2024 re-election campaign in a video posted on Truth Social yesterday, just 2 days before he is expected to be arraigned. Trump is set to make public remarks in Florida on Tuesday after being arraigned in New York City on an indictment by a grand jury that heard evidence on hush money paid to a porn star before the 2016 election. Joe Tacopina, a Trump lawyer, said he expects more details surrounding the arraignment to be resolved today and noted that the Secret Service, which protects former presidents, also has a role to play tomorrow. Trump, 76, is expected to be arraigned, fingerprinted and photographed at a Manhattan courthouse on Tuesday as he becomes the first former U.S. president to face criminal charges. Political analysts and donors said Trump's indictment will likely encourage his most fervent grassroots supporters to donate, handing Trump a financial bump for the first quarter of the year. Before the indictment, the grand jury heard evidence about $130,000 USD payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels in the waning days of the 2016 presidential campaign. Daniels has said she was paid to keep silent about a sexual encounter with Trump in 2006. Trump, however, has denied any such encounter. A prominent Russian military blogger was killed in an explosion in a cafe that wounded 25 others in Russia's second-largest city of St. Petersburg. The country's interior ministry identified the person killed in the incident as a military correspondent, Vladimir Tatarsky. Investigators later said they had confirmed an unidentified explosive device exploded in a cafe in central St. Petersburg and had opened a murder inquiry. The Health Ministry said a total of 25 people were injured in the blast, 24 of whom were taken to hospital. 6 of the injured were said to be in serious condition. The explosion occurred at Street Food Bar Number 1, located along the Neva River, not far from the historic city centre, with the Interior Ministry saying the police had been called to the scene at 6:13 p.m. local time. Officers cordoned off the street outside the building with about 20 police cars alongside 6 ambulances as well as fire trucks. TASS news agency quoted a law enforcement source as saying the blast was caused by an improvised explosive device hidden inside a statue given to Tatarsky as a gift. Montenegro's former economy minister Jakov Milatovic declared victory in a presidential election runoff on Sunday over long-standing incumbent Milo Djukanovic, ending more than 3 decades of his rule in the small Balkan republic. Western-educated Milatovic, 37, the deputy head of the Europe Now movement, campaigned on pledges to curb graft, improve living standards and bolster ties with the European Union. Milatovic won 60.1% to Djukanovic's 39.9%. The Podgorica-based Center for Monitoring and Research, CEMI, pollster said on the basis of results tabulated from a statistical sample of votes cast. Another pollster, the Podgorica-based Center for Democratic Transition, CDT, also put Milatovic in the lead with 56.9%. Voter turnout stood at about 70%, CEMI said. The State Election Commission is expected to announce official results in the coming days on the completion of complaints procedures. In the capital, Podgorica, some of his jubilant supporters drove through the center, honking their car horns, while others set off fireworks or fired guns into the air. Sunday's vote follows a year of political instability in which 2 governments were felled by no confidence votes. It was also marked by a dispute between lawmakers and Djukanovic over his refusal to name a new prime minister. Finland's right-wing opposition National Coalition Party leader Petteri Orpo claimed victory on Sunday in the Nordic country's tightly fought parliamentary election. With 93.4% of the votes counted, his party looks set to get the most seats in parliament, 48 out of 200 in total, and with 20.5% support among votes cast. A while later, Finland's Prime Minister Sanna Marin of the ruling Social Democratic Party conceded defeat. Marin, 37, the world's youngest Prime Minister when she took office in 2019, is considered by fans around the globe as a millennial role model for progressive new leaders. But at home, she has faced criticism for her partying and her government's public spending. The NCP has led in polls for almost 2 years, although its lead had melted away in recent months. It has promised to curb spending and stop the rise of public debt, which has reached just over 70% of GDP since Marin took office in 2019. Orpo accused Marin of eroding Finland's economic resilience at a time when Europe's energy crisis, driven by Russia's war in Ukraine, has hit the country hard and the cost of living has increased. Orpo has said he will negotiate with all groups to obtain a majority in parliament, while Marin has said her Social Democrats may govern with the NCP but will not go into government with the Finns party. The Finns party's main goal is to reduce what leader Riikka Purra has called harmful immigration from developing countries outside the European Union. It also calls for austerity policies to curb deficit spending, a stance it shares with the NCP.
Demokratia on puhunut. Suomalaiset ihmiset ovat äänensä antaneet.
Coming up in sports, Newcastle beat Manchester to clinch 3rd spot in standings. That and more right after this. We begin our sports segment with news on the Premier League race. The second-half goals from Joe Willock and Callum Wilson helped Newcastle United to a 2-0 home win over Manchester United to leapfrog Erik ten Hag's side in the bid to secure Champions League qualification. Newcastle created plenty of chances throughout the match. However, thanks to a solid performance from United goalkeeper David De Gea, they did not convert until Willock arrived unmarked to convert an Alan St. Maximin cutback on 64 minutes. Then Wilson came off the bench on 80 minutes and netted a header from a well-taken Kieran Trippier free kick to seal a precious victory. The victory was some sort of revenge for Newcastle, losing 2-0 to Ten Hag's United in the Carabao Cup final in February. Newcastle move up to third place in the table, ahead of United in fourth on goal difference, with the two sides are level on 50 points with a game in hand over fifth-placed Tottenham. Coach Graham Potter paid for Chelsea's poor form as the Englishman was sacked after just 7 months on the job. Now, the Blues had slipped to 11th in the Premier League table after a 2-0 home defeat to Aston Villa on Saturday, despite spending over £500 million on new signings this season. Former Brighton defender Bruno Saltor has been placed in interim charge. Chelsea have won just 3 games in their last 11, but have progressed to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, where they face defending champions Real Madrid. That tie may have been the decisive factor in the club's new American owners pulling the trigger now, with the first leg in Madrid just 10 days away. Co-owners Todd Bowley and Baghdad Iqbali in a statement said, with 10 Premier League games remaining and a Champions League quarterfinal ahead, they will put every effort and commitment into every one of those games to end the season on a high note. An unlikely run to the club's third European Cup now appears Chelsea's only route back into the Champions League next season, as they sit 12 points adrift of the Premier League top 4. Potter becomes the second manager sacked by the consortium, led by LA Dodgers co-owner Bowley and private equity firm Clear Lake Capital, in their first season in charge. In tennis, Russian Daniil Medvedev beat Italy's Yannick Sinner 7-5, 6-3 to win the Miami Open for his 4th title of the year and 19th overall. The jubilant 4th seed was playing in his 5th consecutive final after triumphs in Doha, Rotterdam and Dubai, before finishing runner-up to Carlos Alcaraz at the Indian Wells 2 weeks ago. Medvedev started confidently holding serve to love, while Sinner's first service game was a real battle. Sinner had to save a break point and fought throughout a 26-shot rally before coming through at the end of a 100-minute game. In contrast, Medvedev again served to love, but Sinner was showing signs of settling as he held his serve, and then the Italian broke Medvedev to go 3-2 up with a deft touch volley. Medvedev immediately broke back, however, with Sinner's effort clipping the net and going out, and after the Russian held again. Medvedev, looking composed and confident, grabbed the first set when Sinner was serving at 6-2 down, and the Italian's poor shot into the net handed the Russian the crucial break. Medvedev quickly got ahead in the second set when Sinner sent a forehand long, but just as quickly handed the break back to Sinner. But Sinner was making too many errors, and when Medvedev broke again to go 3-1 up, the Italian was unable to turn things around, and Medvedev completed his first ever win in Miami. In Formula One, Max Verstappen won the Australian Grand Prix yesterday after 2 late red flags and a slew of crashes threw the race into chaos before the Red Bull driver was allowed a processional victory lap around Albert Park. Double defending champion Verstappen was leading Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton with a few laps left when Kevin Magnussen crashed his Haas into a wall, leaving debris on the track and halting the race. The cars returned to the grid with fresh tyres for a 2-lap sprint to decide the winner, but in a chaotic restart, Williams driver Logan Sargent drove into the back of AlphaTauri's Nick de Vries to knock both of them into gravel at turn 1. Alpine drivers Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon then crashed into each other to leave a trail of debris on the track and trigger another red flag, the third and last of the race. After lengthy deliberations, stewards decided the race would finish with 1 lap behind the safety car in the order of the previous start, minus the cars that had crashed out. That allowed Verstappen to claim his second win of the season ahead of Hamilton, with Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso third in a race in which 8 of the 20 cars failed to finish. Now, Red Bull have now won a record of 3 Grand Prix in the new season, resuming their dominance after their runaway success in 2022. And moving on to the MotoGP, Marco Mazzecchi clinched his and VR46 Racing's maiden MotoGP victory at the Argentina Grand Prix to move to the top of the championship standings after he dominated in wet conditions to lead from the first corner to the checkered flag. Pramac Ducati's Johan Zarco finished second with a stunning ride in the second half of the race, while pole sitter Alex Marquez was third on his Gresini Ducati for the first podium since the Aragon Grand Prix in 2020. Reigning champion Francesco Bagnaia threw away 20 points when he made a mistake and crashed while he was in second place with 8 laps left, conceding top spot in the championship to Bezzecchi, who now leads by 9 points. Once Bezzecchi had a clear track in front of him, the 2022 Rookie of the Year did not look back and extended his lead to 3 seconds with 15 laps to go. Marquez battled with Ducati's Francesco Bagnaia for second place, where the latter eventually found a way past Marquez, but soon after he made a mistake on turn 13 and slid off the track. Although Bagnaia managed to finish the race, he crossed the line 16th, and he was absolutely livid with himself. And that's it for today's updates at noon. In our top story this afternoon, several leading companies in China chose Malaysia as the regional hub. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow at the same time for more updates. Now, we leave you with a clip of Eiffela, an exact replica of the famous Eiffel Tower, just 10 times smaller, and is currently on display in Paris, just beside the real tower. I'm Mona Priya. Thank you for your company.